You know, I've been working on these mounts here. Coming out pretty good. Like I said, I was going to double that up, so when we drill and tap this, we're going to be through a 1/2 inch of steel. So you're not going to pull the threads out of a 1/2 inch. It should work really good, but the 1/4 inch kind of worried me, so we just added a plate on top and should work well. But let me show you. So here we go. So those sitting there right now, we don't have nothing welded on those, so all we did was weld this plate across there, across here. This sits down in. Same thing on this one. You know, we got both of them, but same deal on there. Nice tight fit. You know, I mean, they don't move, which is kind of nice because it actually supports that really well. So there won't be any movement at all in this thing. You know, so we've got these brackets here are going to go on there. I've got 4 of them stacked together. I always stack my brackets together and tack weld them, because that way when you're drilling them by hand, they always drill nice and perfect. So you got 4 brackets that will be exactly the same. So we'll take those apart, stick them right here. We'll mark those holes, get those drilled, tapped. We'll actually bolt this down and then weld these brackets to this pipe. Hold everything down nice and tight. Should work out really well. They come along nice. I fit them up in the frame and they look really good in the frame. I'll show you that in a minute, but I want to show you a couple other things here. So my brother showed up last night and brought us some cool stuff. We've got the front frame rails right here. We got 4 of those all cut out. Really nice work, come out awesome. We got 4 rounds. Those are going to be, I didn't know exactly what size I needed because my new bags haven't made it here yet. So I had him do me 6-inch rounds, and then we'll drill the bolts and the holes for the airlines and stuff whenever I'm ready for those. Not a big deal. But I think they're a little bit big. I told him 6-inch, but I think the new bags might be only about 5 or something, but not a big deal. Here are sway bar mounts. These come out really good. You know, those are going to be for our sway bar and our lift arms. Those come out awesome, 4 of those, double shear on each side. Same thing with our 4-link mounts. He come up with this, and this was a pretty simple bracket, you know, and he added a little more style to it, and it looks good. It came out really good. So super happy with that. Now we got all that stuff, and I think we got to get to work now, right? Wanted to take the body off of this thing so we can work on this chassis a little better. You know, we don't need the body on it now. I marked center line of where the axle needs to be on the chassis and stuff. So now we just need to get the 4-link all mocked up and be a whole lot easier without that body on there. So I'm kind of getting tired of working around it, so popped it off. We'll get my rear end housing back up on there, and we got our new Speedway housing ready to go. You know, those things are cheap enough, and we're not building a ton of horsepower, so it'll run good. But you know, the car's gonna be super light, but it don't need a big strong gusset housing or anything, so that should work great for us. Like I said, the price was cheap enough that it wasn't even worth us trying to clean up the old housing and get all the rusted pit holes and stuff out of it, and just pointless. So we're going to get on this and see how it goes. got my mounts over here, put them in the vise. We're gonna tap these holes out, so we're gonna power tap a little bit. You know, I've got my bits. You know, we have a drill bit and tap built in. These are from Kimball Midwest. They're pretty good bits. So I pre-drilled the holes though. I didn't, you know, I'm not going to use this on something this thick. Besides, we use the drill press and stuff to drill these holes, and you don't want to try to power tap with a drill press. That's not going to work well for you. So I pre-drilled the holes with the drill press, going back with the power tap and the drill. We're going to see if we can blow through these things, and then we'll do the next one. Alright, so buzzed right through those things. Like I said, that's 1/2 inch thick now. It's 2 1/4 inch pieces. So I went right through it, but you wonder what I'm putting on it. Right here, Kimball Midwest Ultra Cut Gold Gel. This stuff is great. I use it for drilling and tapping and all kinds of stuff. Even on the lathe, when I get some hard metal or something, you know, I put some of this on it, and really saves the bits, and you know, doesn't burn up your drill bits, doesn't burn up your cutting edges. Works really good. As you can see, I mean, that's 10 millimeter 1.5 thread we just put in there, and 1/2 inch thick, and it buzzed right through it, no problem. So we're going to move on to the next bracket, get it drilled and tapped out. Alright, so we got this one done too. Drilled, tapped, ready to go for that piece. So, you know, when you're doing this, when you're power tapping, you got to be real careful, you know. I'm sure most of you already know that, you know, taps are very hard and brittle. You know, they got to be hard so they go through and doesn't dull them, but makes them really brittle too. So when I'm power tapping, I'm, you know, on number 1, but I am probably only not even 1/4 on the trigger pull. Go nice and easy and hold that thing steady. You know, you don't want to get off left or right. You'll bind up. That'll cause a tap to break too. I put a drop of that on there before I tap each hole. Clean the material off of your bit. Make sure those flutes are clean before you start again. If not, you'll get a piece of material that'll wrap up in here, and when you start cutting, it'll roll over into them threads. It not only it'll screw your threads up, but it'll actually break your tap. Be careful with that. You know, a lot of guys don't like the power tap. I get it. It's, you know, it's kind of sketchy sometimes, but the size we're using now, it'd be hard to break this one without really forcing it. So, you know, that's why I go, like I said, maybe a 1/4 throttle on the drill, and just hold it nice and steady, and don't let it move back and forth. I kind of put the butt of the gun against my side and underneath my arm, and it really helps me hold it steady and get a nice steady speed going down through, and it does pretty good. So if you're not comfortable with that, do it by hand. But honestly, you know, I like it this way because it's very easy to start it. You've already run the drill bit through it, so it's already perfect hole size for the bit, and it lines this thing up. It makes some nice square holes all the way down. You know, don't mind my mess on my milling machine. I'm not real good at cleaning my mess when I'm done. So anyway, that's where we're at. Okay, little tip here. I did it for years myself, and probably lucky that I didn't get messed up doing it. But prepping to weld, I used to spray brake clean on it, you know, try to dry it off, what have you, and then I started hearing people talking about how bad it is for you. So brake clean, I can't remember the chemical in it, but whatever it is, when you use brake clean and then weld, the fumes that come off that are really nasty. Like, they'll mess you up bad. So best thing to use, this is what I use now, just straight acetone. Wipe it down with acetone. It's not gonna bother you. Dries up really fast. Doesn't leave no funky residues either. So just a little tip. I was getting ready to wipe these down and thought maybe I better tell somebody, because most of you probably already know. I didn't know until, you know, a couple of years ago about this, and you know, now this is all I use is acetone. If you want, you get a spray bottle, a spray lid for it. Just makes it easier, just kind of like a brake clean can. But this is what I do from now on. Don't want to take those chances, you know. Doing what we do, we breathe enough junk in, we don't need to do that too. So getting some of this welded up, so what I like to do is really support this stuff up good when you start welding on it. Clamp it down, make sure it's stable, make sure it can't move, because the amount of draw that you get out of something when you weld on it is crazy. Even with TIG, you know, TIG's a little better, but man, they draw a lot. So you have to have these things clamped down. So what I like to do is I try to clamp everything down really good, tack one side really good, flip it over, clamp it down tight again, tack the other side. You know, decent tacks, not just a little tiny tack, but a pretty good one. Maybe like a half-inch stitch or quarter-inch stitch or something. But clamp that thing down while, you know, make sure it doesn't cool while it's unclamped. And I let these things cool down to dang near room temperature. Make sure you can put your hand on it, it's not going to burn you, it's not too hot. Seems like I get the best results of stuff not warping when I do that. So, you know, just a little bit of info, kind of see what I got going on here. The one side is tacked in good. Like this side here, I just tacked that. Now I'm going to leave that sit there clamped until it cools down to room temperature before I unbolt it. This one here, I've already tacked the one side, let it go down to room temperature, unbolted it, flipped it over, and then I supported it here and here, so nothing's in the middle, so everything's nice and squared up. And then I've done some weld through here, what I can get to without the clamps being in the way. As soon as that cools down to room temperature, I'll pull those clamps off, move them in a different location, finish welding that up. Then we'll flip it to the other side, clamp it back down, weld the other side. It's a pain in the butt, but if you don't want this stuff to warp all up and you want these bolts to go back in, then you got to make sure you do it right. All right, got the one done, got it all welded up, everything's ready to go. The holes are tapped. You know, these little pieces you make, you don't realize how long it takes to make something like this. Seems very simple, but you end up having hours and hours in something like this. But that's what we got to do to make it work. So that's why hot rods take so long to build. You know, everybody wonders, well, why do they cost so much? Why do they take so long to build? This is why. You know, we're not buying parts from a store and bolting them on your car. This is all handmade. You know, you got to take the time to cut everything out, make sure everything's lined up perfectly. You know, it all has to bolt together and work together. You know, the whole thing has to work together. So anyway, this is the one we're waiting to cool down right now. We finished welded it. it's still cooling down. I've got it all clamped in, you know, so it doesn't warp and pull and what have you. But this is what we got right now. So see what we got here. So there's our cap. You know, looks pretty simple, but took us forever to build, right? So these here, this is the bucket it's going to sit in. We've drilled and tapped all those. We've TIG welded this plate on there because, like I said before, we wanted to double this up. So now this is 1/2 inch thick, tapped all the way through. Really nice. Came out pretty good. So basically, cap on there. You know, we'll get our bushing, our sway bar through there, and our cap will go on. You know, 4 bolts in it. Should set up pretty nice. You know, went through and chased all the threads and stuff again, you know, with a different tap, a little more aggressive tap, just to make sure they were cleaned out nice and smooth. You screw them in nice and easy. Snug them up, you know, that's went together nice. So should do the job real well. I'll show you what we're going to do with this thing. So we're here, you know. It's also, while I was letting this stuff cool, so this piece here, you know, like I said, it's welded in place. It's just kind of tacked in place. You know, strong enough that it's not going to move, but we didn't want to weld it in yet, and I have not welded in yet. And I won't completely weld it in until I feel like this is exactly where it has to be, but I think we're about there. Anyway, so we've welded, or not welded, I've measured from the top of this to the back of this frame. You know, this, the whole time you need to keep making sure everything is squared up. So measure from there, we're like 35 and 9/16. This side, same thing. You know, there, down to here, 35, 9/16. So we are still squared up. You know, you can square this thing up once or twice and then keep going with it. When you get done, you may be off, because man, things move. You know, you think you got it right, so honestly, just go around and keep checking everything. Check everything for square as you go. You don't want to get this thing done, and you know, then you end up being out of square. Now you're back here cutting everything apart, trying to square it back up, trying to figure out where you went wrong, where maybe you welded on something and it drew the wrong way, or what have you. You know, keep an eye on everything. Tack things in place. You know, the rear end, I got it set up. All I did was make a, you know, a half-ass pedestal for this thing to sit on, and just tacked it. It doesn't take much. We just don't want this thing sliding everywhere. If I go and bump against this frame, I don't want it moving. Well, it's not going to move because I have it tacked over to the table. I squared it up. I tacked it to the table. It's not moving now. You know, it's not the perfect setup. You know, we're not building F1 cars here. As long as we can get this thing squared up so she drives nice and straight, and then we're fine. But you know, just a couple little tips there. Don't get yourself in so deep and then realize, you know, realize the thing's crooked. You know, because that's the one thing about them. They've got to be square. And I mean, you know, with the 4-link suspension and stuff, we do have, you know, a lot of adjustment on it, so you can square it up. But you know, start with a square car. Let's start with a square frame. Make sure you take your time and be sure those are right. But I'm going to get this thing kind of mocked up on here. I'm waiting for the other one to cool. When it's done, we'll mock the two up, and I'm going to have to make some bushings. I don't know when my Delrin's going to be here. Hopefully tomorrow, and I can make these bushings. But if it's not going to be here by tomorrow, I'm going to make some temporary bushings for it. And we're going to get this thing in here because, you know me, I don't like to wait. I need to get this thing done. So we'll check out the other one and we'll get it mocked up. All right. All right, we got the second one done now. You know, both of them come out really good. I mean, can't hardly beat it. You know, they match up pretty good. Everything looks good on them, you know. So here's what we're gonna do. So basically, this one's going in here. This one goes here. The sway bar tube will go through them. This might. Let's see here. Let's see. Sway bar tube goes through them. And then, like I said, we'll do the Delrin bushings. As soon as I get my Delrin, we'll do the bushings. Man, I hope it's tomorrow. So then, I gotta clean these up a little bit, but essentially, I can't push it on, but essentially that's gonna be our link. Let's see if I can just a little better. You can see it. That's gonna go right on there. That's gonna bump in nice snug fit too. And there's gonna be the rear end full up. We'll have a link going right up to the rear end itself. And this will come down. We'll drop that. The rear end will be full down there. Probably have close to 8 inches of travel, I'm guessing. It'll be real close to that. The rear end is about a ½ inch higher than I need it right now. I just wanted to make sure that we had enough up travel and when we set the fore link up. So, you know, it should be pretty good though. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what to do next. Wish I had them bushings, but I guess now we can probably figure out how I want the fore link in here. Got my new brackets now, you know. My brother just brought those or what have you yesterday, so now we will get those put on here and see what we got.